Nurburgring returns to the Formula 1 schedule in 2020 for the first ever Eifel Grand Prix. But F1 is no stranger to the legendary venue in Western Germany, and it's one of the original World Championship venues from 1950. First used in 1927, its 14-mile Nordschleife layout is one of the greatest circuits in the world. It reopened after World War II in time for the start of the F1 World Championship in 1950, a race won by Ferrari's Alberto Ascari, who'd go on to win the first 3 German Grand Prix. Giuseppe Farina won here for Ferrari in 1953. Before Juan Manuel Fangio scored a famous triumph for Mercedes on home soil in '54. However, fellow Argentinian Onofre Marimon was killed in a crash during practice that year. Fangio also won here for Ferrari and Maserati, his 1957 victory lauded as one of the greatest comebacks of all time after a slow pit stop. Tony Brooks claimed victory here for Vanwall in 1958, but his win was overshadowed by the death of Ferrari's Peter Collins. After the event moved to Avus in Berlin, the Nürburgring returned in 1961 as the full-time home of the event. Stirling Moss won a brilliant victory in his privately run Lotus. More British success followed with Graham Hill, John Surtees and Jim Clark all winning. Jack Brabham won here in '66 after a mighty duel with Surtees. Stewart triumphed by over 4 minutes in 1968 after a legendary wet weather drive. Gerhard Mitter became the 5th driver to perish at the 1969 event, and drivers voted against racing there in 1970. It returned to the schedule in 1971 after safety changes and resurfacing work, a race again won by Stewart. Jackie Ickx won in 1972 for Ferrari, having previously triumphed with Brabham in '69. Stewart won the 27th and last win of his career in 1973, having christened the track the Green Hell. The clock was ticking on the track's suitability for Formula 1 as Clay Regazzoni, Carlos Reutemann and James Hunt scored mid-1970s wins. Against a backdrop of heightened safety concerns, Niki Lauda's fiery and near-fatal crash in 1976 was the end for F1 at the Nordschleife. Instead, a new track, the Grand Prix Course, was built to the latest safety standards. It hosted the first European Grand Prix in 1984, won by Alain Prost of McLaren. And the German Grand Prix made a brief comeback here in '85, won by Ferrari's Michele Alboreto. After a break, F1 returned in 1995, with European Grand Prix won by Benetton's Michael Schumacher and Williams' Jacques Villeneuve. And then, under the Luxembourg Grand Prix name, races were won by Villeneuve and Mika Häkkinen's McLaren. The European title was back for 1999, with an epic race won by Johnny Herbert, Stewart Grand Prix's first and last F1 win. Michael Schumacher scored 4 victories here in the 2000s for Ferrari. His brother Ralph won the 2003 race for Williams after Kimi Räikkönen suffered an engine failure. Fernando Alonso triumphed in 2005, but only after Raikkonen's suspension failed while leading on the last lap. In 2007 there was a downpour at the start, which allowed Markus Winkelhock to lead on his F1 debut. After a crazy crash at the first corner took out many, Alonso won again, this time for McLaren. From 2009, the Nurburgring shared the German Grand Prix with Hockenheim, and Mark Webber claimed his first F1 win despite a drive-through penalty for a clash with Rubens Barrichello. Lewis Hamilton won in 2011, the last F1 race there was in 2013, won by Sebastian Vettel's Red Bull.